Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, where we break down the coolest, wildest, and most mind-bending TV shows out there. Today, we're kicking off a brand new season of The Umbrella Academy, with its first episode titled, The Unbearable Tragedy of Getting What You Want. And let me tell you, if you thought the Hargreeves siblings had seen it all, buckle up because things are about to get real interesting. So, first things first, if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of the wild ride we're about to embark on this season. Trust me, you're going to want to be in on this. Now let's get right into it. You know how the end of Season 3 left our favorite dysfunctional family powerless and living ordinary lives? Well, Season 4, Episode 1 wastes no time showing us just how ordinary those lives have become. And by ordinary, I mean hilariously tragic. I mean, who could have guessed that Luther, our space boy with super strength, would end up as a stripper? Talk about a glowdown, right? But hey, he's making it work. Sort of. But let's back up a bit. The episode starts with a bang, or should I say a lot of bangs, showing us just how far the Hargreeves have fallen since they lost their powers. Victor, once the epicenter of all things catastrophic, is now managing a bar. Diego, our knife-wielding hero, is delivering packages for a living. Honestly, I wasn't sure whether to laugh or cry watching them try to navigate life like regular people. It's like seeing Superman trying to figure out how to use an ATM. Awkward, yet you can't look away. But here's where things start to get juicy. We meet the Keepers, a group of conspiracy theorists who are convinced that the timeline is all wrong and that they need to cleanse it. And guess what? They're led by none other than the quirky duo Dr. Jean and Jean Thibodeau, played by the fantastic Nick Offerman and Megan Mullally. I mean, seriously, these two are gold. Their chemistry is off the charts, and they bring this perfect mix of creepy and comedic that just fits the tone of The Umbrella Academy. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh great, another cult in the mix. But this isn't just any cult. These guys are legit dangerous, and they believe the Hargreeves are the key to restoring the correct timeline. Which, of course, leads us to Victor's kidnapping. Yep, you heard that right. Our guy Victor gets snatched up and the gang has to pull off a rescue mission. But here's the twist. The kidnapper is just a desperate dad looking for help to find his missing daughter, who has fallen in with the Keepers. I love how this episode plays with our expectations, turning what seems like a straightforward villain situation into something much more nuanced. And speaking of twists, can we talk about the marigold? Yes, marigolds are back in the spotlight. If you recall from earlier seasons, marigolds have always been linked to the siblings' powers. And in this episode, Five finds a jar of marigold among the artifacts, hinting that they might be able to regain their abilities. But here's where the episode throws a curveball. The siblings are actually considering whether they even want their powers back. I mean, whoa, what a shift. They've spent so much time either using or resenting their powers, and now that they have the chance to get them back, some of them are like, hey, maybe not. Diego in particular is torn. On the one hand, he's grown used to his new life, even if it's not glamorous. On the other hand, he misses the thrill of being a hero. And then there's Klaus, who's fully embracing his new sober lifestyle, free from the chaos of his past. The episode does a great job of showing how these characters have evolved, and it makes us question whether getting what you want is always a good thing. I mean, the title of the episode says it all, right? But hold on, because Ben, yes, that Ben, has a little trick up his sleeve. Turns out he's not as content as he pretends to be, and in a sneaky move, he spikes their drinks with the marigold. So, while everyone's toasting to their normal lives, they might be unknowingly setting themselves up for a big surprise down the line. Honestly, Ben has always been the wild card, and it looks like he's about to shake things up big time. Now let's take a second to appreciate the amazing writing in this episode. The dialogue is sharp, the humor is on point, and the pacing keeps you on the edge of your seat. And can we talk about the soundtrack? The Umbrella Academy is known for its killer music choices, and this episode does not disappoint. The tunes are perfectly matched to the scenes, adding an extra layer of fun and intensity to the story. Whether it's a quirky scene or a tense showdown, the music just nails it. Oh, and before we get too deep into the plot, let me ask you guys, what would you do if you suddenly lost your superpowers? Would you embrace the normal life, or would you do whatever it takes to get them back? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because I'm really curious to see where you guys stand on this one. Okay, back to the episode. So after the whole marigold debacle, we shift focus to the Keepers again. These guys are up to something big, And it's clear that they believe in this cleanse with a cult-like fervor. But what exactly does the cleanse entail? Well, the episode leaves us hanging on that one, but it's definitely setting up a major conflict for the rest of the season. I'm guessing whatever the cleanse is, it's not going to be pretty. One of the things I love about the Umbrella Academy is how it blends the bizarre with the relatable. I mean, on the surface, this episode is about super-powered individuals dealing with a timeline gone wrong. But at its core, it's about identity, purpose, and the struggle to find meaning in a world that doesn't quite fit. Each character is dealing with their own version of this, and it's fascinating to see how they navigate it. For instance, Luther's storyline is both tragic and hilarious. He's clearly lost, trying to find a place in a world where his strength doesn't really matter anymore. And yet, there's this underlying sadness as he realizes that maybe, just maybe, being super wasn't all it was cracked up to be. It's this blend of humor and heartache that makes the show so compelling. And then there's Allison, who is trying to juggle her acting career with her family life. Her struggle feels so real, especially for anyone who's ever tried to balance personal ambitions with the demands of everyday life. Her desperation to make it in Hollywood, despite the odds, adds a layer of depth to her character that I really appreciate. As for Klaus, I think we're all rooting for him to stay on the straight and narrow. But let's be real. This is Klaus we're talking about, so you know things are going to get messy. Still, it's nice to see him try to hold it together, even if his past is just waiting to pull him back in. All right, so we've got our characters set up, our villains introduced, and a whole lot of mystery surrounding this season. But the episode isn't done with us yet. Just when you think things might start to calm down, Victor, Luther, and the gang find themselves facing an unexpected challenge, actually working together again. Let's just say the sparks fly, and not in a good way. Their teamwork, or lack thereof, is a reminder that while they might be family, they've still got a lot of issues to work through. And honestly, that's part of what makes their dynamic so entertaining to watch. Now, if you've been following the series, you know that the Umbrella Academy is all about dysfunctional family dynamics, and this episode leans into that hard. The bickering, the grudges, the awkward reunions, it's all here, and it's glorious. But there's also a sense that this season might be about healing those wounds, or at least trying to. The episode plants seeds of potential reconciliation, but it's clear that it's not going to be an easy road. All right, before we move on, I want to know, who's your favorite Hargreeves sibling? Are you Team Klaus, Team 5, or maybe you're rooting for the underdog Luther? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We've got a lot more Umbrella Academy content coming your way, and trust me, you don't want to miss it. Now, as we get into the second half of the episode, things really start to heat up. The rescue mission for Victor takes center stage, and it's here that we see just how much these characters have changed and how much they haven't. There's this great moment where Five, ever the pragmatist, points out that they're no longer the superpowered team they once were. But of course, that doesn't stop them from throwing themselves into the fray with all the dysfunctional energy we've come to love. And speaking of Five, can we just take a moment to appreciate how he's still the brains of the operation, even without his time-traveling abilities? He's the one who pieces together where Victor might be held and orchestrates the whole plan. It's classic Five. Always a step ahead, even when things are falling apart around him. I don't know about you, but I love how the writers keep his character sharp and witty, even when the odds are stacked against him. But here's where the episode really surprises us. Instead of the usual explosive showdown, the rescue mission takes a more emotional turn. When the gang finally confronts the man who kidnapped Victor, they discover his true motivation, a desperate attempt to save his daughter who's trapped in the Keeper's web. It's a powerful moment that adds depth to the story, showing us that not every villain is truly evil. And sometimes, people do terrible things out of love and fear. This revelation throws the Hargreeves for a loop. Suddenly, their mission isn't just about saving Victor. It's about helping this man and his daughter escape the grip of the Keepers. It's a classic Umbrella Academy move, taking what could have been a straightforward action sequence and turning it into something much more complex and emotional. And honestly, that's one of the reasons I keep coming back to this show. It's unpredictable in the best way possible. And just when you think the episode might be winding down, we're hit with another bombshell. Lila's back. Yes, our favorite time-traveling, power-mimicking wildcard reappears, and she's got her own agenda. Her arrival is perfectly timed, adding an extra layer of chaos to an already intense situation. What does she want this time? Is she here to help or hinder the Hargreeves? The episode leaves us with more questions than answers, and I'm totally here for it. Lila's return also brings up old wounds, especially for Diego. Their complicated relationship is one of the show's highlights, and it's clear that there's still a lot of unresolved tension between them. The chemistry between these two characters is off the charts, and I can't wait to see how their dynamic evolves this season. Are they destined to be enemies, allies, or something in between? Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure. Lila is going to keep things interesting. Now let's talk about that cliffhanger. The episode ends with the Hargreeves staring down a major dilemma. Do they continue their quest to regain their powers, or do they try to stop the Keepers without them? It's a tough call, and the episode doesn't give us an easy answer. Instead, it leaves us hanging, wondering what choice they'll make and what consequences it will have. It's the perfect setup for the rest of the season, and I'm already itching to hit next episode to find out what happens. But before we wrap this up, let's take a moment to discuss the broader implications of this episode. The idea of whether or not the Hargreeves should regain their powers touches on a deeper theme, one that's been running through the series since the beginning. It's about identity, purpose, and the question of whether we are defined by our abilities or by the choices we make. The Hargreeves have always been more than just their powers, and this season seems poised to explore what happens when they're forced to confront that reality head-on. And what about the Keepers? Their introduction raises some big questions about the nature of the timeline and what it means to correct it. Are they simply misguided fanatics, or is there some truth to their beliefs? The show has always played with the idea of fate versus free will, and I suspect that the Keepers are going to challenge the Hargreeves' understanding of both in some pretty mind-bending ways. So what do you think? Will the Hargreeves choose to regain their powers, or will they find a way to defeat the Keepers as ordinary people? And what's Lila's endgame? I want to hear your theories, so drop them in the comments below. And if you haven't already, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our future videos. Alright, that's it for today's review. Thanks so much for hanging out with me as we dove into the first episode of the new season of the Umbrella Academy. I'm super excited to see where this season takes us, and I hope you'll join me for the ride. Until next time, stay weird, stay wonderful, and I'll see you in the next video.